Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Breaking Bread Village. I truly appreciate it. I'm really excited about this conversation because, as I share with you, I'm so intrigued by, I don't know, people kind of taking their life in their own hands, whatever that looks like. So I really appreciate that and respect it and just get really excited about it. So first, I want you all to introduce yourselves and then we'll get started with the conversation.
All right. I'll start with myself. I'm Carla. I am currently a design director for Disney and National Geographic in Washington, D.C. And I met Chris here in Washington, D.C. probably like 7 years ago now. And, I think that when we met, I don't know if we ever thought we'd ever be here or the point that we're at, but there were some pretty interesting similarities that Chris and I had when we did meet. And I think the fact that we're at this point in our life and where we're heading in this trajectory is like kind of accumulation of some of those like thoughts of where we both sort of envisioned ourselves in our future, But anyway, I don't know.
So I'm Chris. I am a kitchen and bath renovator and designer in Washington, D.C., DMV area. We transform spaces every day, so we're looking forward to do our own from the ground up. I plan on doing probably as much of the building as I can get away with. We have to call in some certified welders and some other trades to take care of some things, but I'll take care of most of it.
Awesome. That's so cool. So both of you all really are kind of creatives. I mean, in your own right, which I think is so cool. I myself am a creative, so I always appreciate the artistry of the mind of a creative, right? And how we can kind of just, like you said, transform spaces, our lives, everything. So you talked about renovating. Let's talk about what we're talking about. So you both talked about your careers. Chris, can you share what the property you're on that you're going to be renovating? And then we're going to talk about how you segue into this new lifestyle.
Yeah, we're going to be building a 4-container Connex container architecture home in Southeast Virginia on my family farm. I'll be the 4th generation to be there. My great-grandfather got the property in I believe in about 1915. He purchased the property, so we've had it for a while. It's had quite a few transformations. The lot we're actually building on, I had purchased, and got set up before I met Carla. I had been into container architecture long before that. I was going to build a much smaller home than we're building now, obviously. But yeah, so I've had plans to go back to the family farm for quite a while. And it's a timber farm now, so we grow pine trees and then we cut chunks of pine trees. We're trying to convert it to something a little more eco-friendly and sustainable.
Sure.
Than something that just grows trees and cuts trees.
Yeah.
But that was a transformation my grandfather made. It used to be a hog farm when my great-grandfather was living. So until the 70s, it was a functioning hog farm, and then it became a tree farm. Yeah. My grandparents concentrated more on the country store aspect than the farming aspect.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's so cool. It's really interesting. I love when families keep legacy within family, right? I mean, that's just so beautiful. And it's something magical to me when you are walking on the soil, interacting with the soil of such legacy, right? Blood, sweat, and tears literally have gone into that space. And, the memories that are created and that are to come is just so beautiful. So I love that. So tell me, I want you all to tell me how you transition into this, because Chris, I know you do this as a living, but you necessarily we're not necessarily thinking about doing this, I'm assuming, based on conversation. So tell me how you all segued into this. Carla, if you want to start. Oh, Chris, yeah, go for it.
Go ahead first, please.
How did we end up like getting into the container home, I guess, is basically like what you're asking, right? Like,
well, because it's not like a traditional thing to say, hey, let's get together and go live in a container, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
you know what I mean? So how did you
Yeah.
all decide and want to, I mean, even with the eco-friendly part, I mean, traditionally people get a regular, what we consider regular homes, traditional homes, and then kind of go on. So tell me how you all decided that.
Well, I think it really originated with Chris, because when I met him, he had, and I think that was probably one of the most interesting things that drew me to Chris, was that he pulled out this notebook and he said, I want to build a home out of a container. And he's like, this is kind of basically how I see it. And my experience at that time that we met was that, you know, container architecture was starting to become something that I had seen in my zeitgeist of being in the design world, of being in graphic design world, and being in the art world in general. You cover a lot of mediums, right? I'm looking at fashion, I'm listening to music, I'm looking at what's happening in entertainment. That's the area I work in. You know, you can go on and on with these different mediums, but I think that you know, that's what had the biggest interest to me, was the architecture component, the fact that I have a lot of intrigue with interior design and experiential from being in my field, doing a lot of events. And so the whole idea of it just being something different and something that felt very modern and stylish in its architecture component was like very much an attraction for me. So when I first met Chris, to his point, it was like I think he had a very simple structure, very simple thought of what his world looked like in the world of container architecture. And then I think the more that him and I started dissecting it and taking it apart, it started becoming this much larger vision, because the vision wasn't just Chris's anymore. It now became our vision.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when it became our vision, well, the vision
It evolved.
It evolved and it got bigger. you know,
obviously it was going to get bigger. We went from
Yeah.
you know a one person dwelling, you know, and when I was going to build my house, I was a traveling contractor. I was probably on the road 25 days a month.
Oh,
So
wow.
It wasn't like I was building an elaborate house for one person. It was literally somewhere to go sleep for a couple days a month, you know?
Right.
So a container made great sense to me. It was something that I could box up when I'm on the road and no one can get in, you know?
Yeah.
But this home is quite elaborate. Even the architects we're pushing everyone's limits. We're doing some cantilevers. So we have the first floor going one way, and then the second floor is turned so it overhangs the front and the back to create porches. So it's going to be quite an intense build.
Wow.
I'm very excited.
No, it sounds exciting. I follow anything non-traditional when it comes to living. So I love like the van life, the bus life, the RVs, all that stuff, containers, the little homes, the small homes. It's just been very interesting to me how people can take those spaces that are traditionally not seen as living quarters and make them as living quarters. And they're so beautiful. I mean, and just so, like you said, they can be very detailed and specific in such a small space. So I think that's really cool. And I love the idea of you all talking about how when you brought your minds together, the vision grew, of course, quite naturally. But, also when you bring like that more technical side and then a different creative side, and then you put them all together, it's just magic. So I love that. It's just, I'm really excited. And I'm sure you all have been documenting your process and the progress and along the way, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we've definitely been doing all that. I believe we're set that we're going to try to launch a YouTube channel around the build. That's more her gig than mine. Like obviously that's what she does. So I'm going to build, she's going to film, and then you guys will get to see the process, and hopefully you'll get to see it in a way that not everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one of the things we're trying to do is, we watch a lot of these shows as well. And there's things I want to know, and I don't think anyone gives that information up. So I'm hoping we're going to give up a little more information that people can realistically go out and achieve building an eco-friendly dream. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yes.
It may be something that I think what is also interesting, like we're pivoting from like a really urban lifestyle and then going to not something that we're entirely foreign to, right? Because my understanding is I get more into like the countercultures and the subcultures that are happening out there is you have a lot of people who want to do what we're doing, but they have to purchase the land first. Imagine having no roots. Imagine having nothing to like really get your base started. And that is a whole entire search in itself. And you will see a lot of people talk about that search within their own personal stories. It's like, how do you get there? And we really have that leg up. It's not only just the land, but it's rich in history. It's something that yes, it's not just, maybe it's not the most beautiful piece of land, but that's not where the beauty lies necessarily, right? The beauty is in that richness of the history.
What do you mean it's not the most beautiful piece of?
Well, I
mean, I don't have a 100-foot cliff with a waterfall.
Right. I guess that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, like you see a lot of people like a great example of the one that we talk about is the Pacific Bend, right? So this guy on Instagram right now, like he's got his whole, like he's brilliant at marketing. Bravo to him. He has a great eye and he's been able to like really push the Washington coastline, the Seattle coastline. And you see a lot of people right now building off Seattle coastline with these container homes. And I think a lot of that, and I could be wrong, is it all comes down to code. It all comes down to what you can do, where you can do it, and how much you can do it for, right? And
right.
So unpacking a whole lot of stuff here.
Yeah, no.
It's going to be really interesting to let people know too just what's going to go into this build, and I think coming from that urban turning to a urban to country perspective.
Yeah, I mean urban for sure. We live 5 miles from the Capitol. We live in a 14-story high rise right downtown. I mean doesn't get much more urban than this. And then we'll probably be 3-4 football fields away from the closest person.
Wow.
When we move to where we move. So it's definitely going to be different.
Yeah. Which is the beauty in it, right? Of itself, right? I don't know. I love, and you can look at a lot of land and say, okay, this is just, regular grass, not too pretty or whatever. But I think the beauty is the legacy, right? Like you mentioned, the beauty is the history and just those roots, like you mentioned. I mean, that is the beauty in it, and that's what's going to help it to thrive and just shine as it is. Because it's so many people that would love. They don't care what the land looks. They would love a little plot of land, right now, and do with it, as you wish. And it's really a thing. I was watching a documentary a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about, it was kind of themed, don't sell grandmother's home. And it was just talking about how a lot of people, would sell their family homes or their family, land, and because they didn't want to tend to it or deal with it or whatever. And now people are realizing how important it is to even have, a plot of land. So we talked about, the technical part and just like the breezing of like the eco friendly reason to, kind of move and shift. I mean, we know what's going on, in the world as far as like climate or, just being saving money, economically wise, as far as how we live. We waste a lot. We waste all the time. But tell me some of the, if you all want to, like some of the more, I guess, like spiritual side of this, like for you, if that makes sense, how, that transitioning and just, I don't know, the beauty of that side of it, because we do things for, reasons. But we also have that inner part of us that does things for reasons as well. So I was just curious if you had anything to add to that.
I feel like I do. I feel like
go for it.
I feel like when Chris and I started really talking about building this container house, like, just so you know, it's gone through so many iterations. It was actually a lot bigger than what it is now.
Okay.
We'll share the plans with you eventually here.
Yeah.
But the journey into how it's gotten where it's been at also evolved this journey of building Blackridge Farms. And that's the spiritual part that really comes about, was we wanted to have this farm be a place where we could do a little bit more community outreach. Like, we really want to be able to say, like Chris and I talked about doing like a community table once a month, a chef in from a local hot stuff chef comes in and does, a full, like, seated 40-person amazing family style brunch type thing where we cater, and we do that once a month, and we bring people in, or we do more community style dinners for the people that live around us. That we can also take the things that we're learning on the farm, like we want to do aquaponics. The next big thing for us is getting the two big things that are going to be happening sort of parallel for us right now coming up with this fall is going to be moving forward on this container build finally, right? We're finally signed with a new architect. We're finally moving forward on that. We're finally going to get to the point where we have plans and we can break ground, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is really starting to think about the greenhouse that we have on our property, really starting to think about what else we're doing on this property as far as getting toward the goal of being sort of semi off grid, right? And when you think about it, that scares people. I feel like people get preppery, like they feel like it's prepperish. I feel like I get lots of YouTube things that are very prepperish, and I'm like, wow, it's okay, it is what it is. But like, it is, in some way it is. It's like, we're going to be starting to experience this more and more. We're going to be our climate is desperate, and it's just going to keep getting more desperate. And the ability for us to have the knowledge that we can share on how you can do your own water, I'm going to make water filtration system, how you can do solar, how you can grow, how you can be self-sufficient. It's good to have those skills, because you don't know when you're going to be faced with that. And I know, and look, I have lived in, just to put perspective on this.
Sure.
I went to school in New York City. I started college there, and I have lived big city for my entire life, much longer than what I ever lived my 18 years in Michigan.
Yeah.
And so for me, I consider myself a big city girl that came from very small town roots. I've seen both sides of the coin, and I know that there are things that people get in the city that you don't often get when you're, those resources you don't get out in the country. But as things that are much bigger than us start to come into play, like climate, we're not going to be able to control the waves of things with food and water. And I think understanding, and people having these things, even if they live in the city, understanding how to have some basic survival is good to know.
No, and I don't know why we have.
Sorry, I'll stop.
No, but I don't know why we have to apologize for prepping for like life, right? It's like, Chris, were you trying to say something? Sorry, because I can ramble about this for a while.
Well, no, I just wanted to go back, to a point where she said the word control.
Yeah.
Right? To me, that's what this house is for us, is giving us more control. We're a solar panel house. I don't have to worry about someone's infrastructure or their grid breaking down in the summer.
Yes.
I don't
like
have those problems.
All across the country right now. Sorry. Sorry. Go. I'm sorry. I was so rude. I'm just having a conversation.
It's, to me, the house and the farm is all about control for me, right? I am taking my need of other people for me to survive away, right?
Yeah.
So being able to grow our own food, being able to take care of ourselves, you know, one of the reasons I like building my home out of a container is it's bulletproof. When
That's true.
when things go into short demand, people are going to start taking it from other people because that's all they know how to do.
We've already seen that.
And, you know, I live in DC. We see it every day. When people don't have it, they just take it. Even in the country, it happens. People take all the time, you know, and it happens there just as much. And I want control as much as I can have. You know what I mean? Because control equals safety. And that's what we all want.
Yeah, peace of mind. I mean, it's to me that makes so much sense, and I don't know, and I don't think we have to apologize for that, right? Because I mean, some things are just natural cause and effect, right? When people don't have, they get it. I mean, that's been the way it's been since the beginning of time. I mean, we know more about it now because we have social media, we have cameras all the time, but people have always taken when they don't have, or they try to get it some kind of way, right? So I don't see anything wrong with saying, okay, we are naturally seeing a rhythm through life. Like we're seeing things kind of happen through life. And okay, before that wave gets to me, or as I know it's maybe going to surround me, I need to be prepared for that. And I think that's smart. And I love it. And there are a lot of people. I was actually, and that's why I reached out to Carla, because I was at an urban farm a couple weeks ago in Cleveland, Ohio, right in the heart of the city. You know, they started a farm and they help people, you know, with learning how to do exactly what you said, aquaponics, and, you know, growing their own food. And it's a necessity. So I think that's cool that you all are doing that, and helping people, like you said, learn how to can, and just do very simple things that people used to know just naturally, right? They were taught that naturally growing up, and we don't have that anymore. So I think that's great that you all are doing that, quite honestly. And I love the fact that you pointed out the thing about the bulletproof, because I mean, we know that people use guns to get things, right? So I mean, if you feel if it gives you more peace of mind, why not? Why not? I mean, so did y'all have any more to add to that part of it?
No, I didn't get to talk about the spiritual part.
Sure.
To me, going home is very spiritual. This will be the second time I go home, I guess to say. As a child, when I was 18, I couldn't wait to escape, as I always call it. Like, rule America, I've got to see the world. Like, I've got to get out of here. I see it, but I got to go see it. So I couldn't wait to get out. And then I went back home for a brief period of time before I met Carla, and had a couple different opportunities in life. And I decided that the country life could wait again. I could pause it to go try a couple opportunities. And I did. And I'm glad we did. But, you know, when I'm home, the connectiveness that I have, every time I go home, I ask for two things when I'm on the farm. I ask for strength and power. I ask for the strength to endure what this farm's going to give me, right? And then I ask for the power to take it on, excel, and achieve, and go on to the next thing. My grandmother used to tell me, owning a farm is hard. It looks beautiful, but it is hard. And I'm excited about the challenge for myself. Honestly, I really am.
No, I love that reflection piece, because we do want to get away from things, right? When we're young, we always think everything is greener, what the grass is greener. I mean, on the other side, that's kind of like how we are as humans. And you're able to reflect back and say, you know what, this is actually a really beautiful experience. It's funny because I grew up in the city, and when I first moved to where I am now, very quiet, like extremely quiet, to where like you could hear like the rustling of a leaf like on the sidewalk behind you. And it's like, you know, I would jump and like say, what is that? Even though I was used to hearing sirens and, you know, chatter constantly, but it was something about that small leaf rustling up behind me that I'm like, oh my God, what is that? You know, and I couldn't even sleep for like a year when I first moved here because it was so quiet. Now, I love it. I love the quiet. You know, I love getting back to the city, and I go and visit and do things, and it's cool. But then I love that coming back to that serene environment and just quiet. So I really applaud with you what you all are doing. I really am excited to watch the process and the progress and just see you all do it together. So tell me, as a couple, how is this, bringing those minds together? Has that had any challenges, or is it kind of like, you just kind of throw your pieces in, or and you can share what you like. It's not no pressure there.
I mean, obvious, it's a challenge. I mean, we have very similar styles when it
Oh,
comes
cool.
to what we want aesthetically. And when I say similar, I mean similar. Like, but we're very different. So it's been fun to try to make a meld of what we want.
Yeah.
But overall, the vision we have for the home is the same. We're both very modern, contemporary people. So it's not like one of us wants a big rock fireplace or anything crazy. Like, we're on the same page.
That's awesome.
It's just when it comes to one tile versus another, we can be way different. But it's challenged us. But as the fact that I do this for a living every day, it gives me a little bit a leg up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then she's been helping me always doing what I do. So we know each other really well, and we play off each other really well. And right now, I say the house is at a very, very good point, but we haven't broken ground yet. And we're both designers. We could see something tomorrow and be like, I've got to have that. We've got to redo this whole space to, fit this aesthetic in this room. And we've done that a couple times already, so it would be nothing new.
Yeah. Go ahead, Carla.
No, I was going to say the same thing. I think we've been the point of where we first started talking about the house to the point of where we finally are now. That's been a lot of years, and we've had a lot of time to think about it and talk about it and design the house and redesign the house.
Yeah, the original shape and concept, I would say, came up 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not.
And we bought the containers about 3 years ago. So we've taken our time.
Yeah.
So, but that's part of us, bouncing everything back and forth, because one day the house would look like this, and then the next day after a train ride or something else, someone like, well, wait, let's try this. And then, so it's evolved. It's come a long way, and I'm very happy with what we're going to be calling our home. To be very honest.
Cool. So when you say you haven't broken ground yet, you guys have the containers. I've seen the videos of the containers that are sitting on the land. So when you say you haven't broke ground yet, that means you haven't started putting all the stuff in the ground. Like, what does that mean? Because you all have already kind of designed it, so to speak, but you haven't quite. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, right now we're waiting for the architect to give us a stamped set of plans, so we can submit that to the county.
Gotcha.
And then once we have the stamped set of plans, we can finalize all our bids. Like, for instance, the basement. We can't dig the basement yet because we've got to know exactly how big the basement is.
Oh, so you can do a basement with a container home, huh?
Oh yeah.
Well, that's part of that envelope. That's part of that envelope I said I was pushing. It's like, no, we've never done this before, but we're not going to say no.
Okay. I'm just trying to visualize how you go down from the container. This is really cool to me. I'm really excited about this whole thing. So, okay, I would have never thought about a basement.
Do you want to build a container home yourself?
I would love to. I'm still working on my husband, but I would love to do that. I don't know. I just think it's cool. I think that it just makes sense sometimes, as far as economically, and it's just cool. I mean, that's also a good thing too, and friendly to the earth. So yeah.
It's interesting that you're talking about the economically, because I think that's one thing we want to talk about with people is the basic economics of what it really is taking to do something that is sound engineering wise, that you can actually feel good about. Let's having a certificate of occupancy, right? Sure. And it's interesting because I will say, going back to this Pacific Bend guy again, his house turns out he's spending $500,000 on it. You know, so, you know, and if you take a look at his Instagram account and you take a look at exactly what he's doing, I'm just a little blown away.
I'm going to say it this way. If you're going to do a permitted home to live in, it is not as inexpensive as the internet shows.
Yes, it really is not.
That is the nicest way I can say it.
Yes.
No, I appreciate that, because there is this thought process that you could just like go buy this container and then just start living in it.
And we had that same thought 5 years ago, and even 3 years ago when we purchased our containers, we were like, we're so close.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're just not.
No.
So tell me kind of roughly, like, just ballpark figure, how much would one container cost? Just
about 3,500 to 4,
Okay.
I would think, delivered in today's market.
Oh, in today's market?
I don't know. Maybe 4,500. I don't know. We bought our containers. Every time we talk about, because we bought ours for like 12 grand, and everyone's like, oh my God, you were so cheap. And I was like, yeah, that was delivered and everything. And they're like,
Right.
Not today. And I'm like, yep. So I honestly don't know what containers cost now.
okay.
I mean, I think so based on, because we've done some numbers and some things a lot of different ways, because we've talked about doing a couple of container Airbnbs on the property just to do them and get them done and have them done. And we figured we could do a solid one for like 50, 60.
I mean, I would think between 45 and 60 to finish on your finishes. But if I'm building a box, though, it's going to be a nice little jewel box. I'm not.
And that would be what, like a 20? You think that would be a 20?
That would be a 40-footer.
A 40-foot container?
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
140.
And then, our budget for our place is $250.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. So
But
not
you
too
keep
bad.
that in mind that I'm going to be doing
You're
a
doing
lot of the work.
which
Right.
saves a lot of money, of course, quite naturally.
A ton of money. So
Yeah.
That's one good thing about the fact that Chris and I have so much experience in renovation and building is we
Yes.
don't understand what subs we know. Like
Yes.
we can do the work up until this point, and then the sub picks up, or we're not even going to touch that particular piece of work because a sub should just do it 100% based on the skill set. And we know exactly
and
our
some of
Achilles
it's
heels.
just headache. Like when it
Yeah.
comes to sheetrocking,
Oh, God,
I have
sheetrock.
no interest in sheetrocking. Like I know how to sheetrock, I know how to
Sheetrock and
mud, I know how to sand, and how to do all that stuff.
That.
I don't want to do it, and I want it to look like a professional did it. I don't want it to look like I did it. Not I'm going to see that. And our home isn't actually going to be a lot of sheetrock in general. I'm looking at subsequent building of other stuff, and then we're going to have a few wood walls for just
cool.
purely out of warmth, because we're going to. I don't want to exclude the fact that we have a country home. You know what I'm saying? Like we're still trying to embrace that in some touches.
Right.
We're just trying to do it in a very modern way.
Right. Oh, that's so cool. I'm just really curious to see this process, because people do make it seem like, you can just, buy this thing and just start living in it. And it's so much to it. I mean, and then too, as much as you're off the grid, you still have to get, like you said, you have to submit it to the county. You have to still get, so they're still involved. You know what I mean? So it's go
we
ahead.
have to put in our own well, our own septic. Like we had to run, power to our lot. Like, and the reason we have to have power to our lot is we could have built a solar panel substation, right? Or we have power to our lot so that we have all the power we need to build our home.
Yeah.
So it was a catch-22, so we went with power.
No, yeah.
But,
Awesome.
Yeah, but these are all like, I mean, those are some of the key things too. Like Chris and I were talking about that today, like the intense amount of money that we saved out of the gate just by owning our property, that property passing a perk test, and then that property already having electrical, right? Because those are like really, really key things.
Yeah, we didn't have to put in a road, like
we didn't have to put in a road.
All that stuff was taken care of for us.
Because I hear a lot of people looking for land, like a lot of people don't know how to look for land, and so they're not thinking about those right things that they need to be considering. when I'm going to do a build, right? Can I put well and septic?
For someone that, again, I mean, let's just be real. You know, you all have resources, you all have know-how, you all have maybe even connections. I don't know, whatever connections mean or look like. You know, we know people to ask questions and things. That for someone that's coming into wanting to you know, do this and don't have those type of resources or connections, what would you kind of, I guess, encourage them to do to get started? Like, how would you kind of tell them, okay, this is what you need to do to first get started?
I mean, obviously, always do your research. You know, there's many ways you can look and do research. But if you truly want to build a container home, I would contact a firm, an architecture, you know, someone that does this for a living, so you can get real answers.
Yeah.
Because we're on our second firm.
Oh, okay.
Just to be very upfront.
Sure.
The first firm didn't get our vision. They couldn't handle what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to backtrack and find someone that was into what we're doing. Like anybody can tell you they can build a container, but can they?
Right.
Are they excited to? That's another thing. You want someone that's excited to be on this eco journey with you, not trying to talk you out of doing other things because they're less expensive and easier for that carpenter.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
This is what I want. This is what I'm trying to get.
Right.
So you want someone that wants the
that
same vision of a finished product that you do. I think that's the real key.
Yeah.
Is if you really think you want to, contact a firm or someone that specializes in this.
And I think you can start on the legwork yourself. I think the most important thing is if you own the land, that's a good leg up, right? You got to now start to do your homework on, can I put a well and septic here? What kind of energy can I have here? Sustainable and on grid, you know, like what can I do on this property? And then you have to start looking at what all your county and your state restrictions and everything are going to be for you building there. Because what people have to realize is containers are considered experimental building. So
in
you
some
have
states.
a lot of, in some states, and every state and every county is going to have different codes. So the first thing you want to do is, if you're going to buy a piece of land, boy, you better make sure you can do what you want to do on that piece of land before you purchase it, because that would just be, I've also heard those kinds of nightmares where people purchase something and then they've discovered there's absolutely nothing they can do on it. Let's say because 90% of it's been zoned as preserved wetlands or something, you know what I mean? And they had no idea prior. They had no kind of, you know, oversight of that type of test, or they have that a person come out and survey the land, do a survey, right? So all of those things are, I think, are, if you can do a lot of that homework for yourself and put yourself in the right spot for success before you even say, okay, now I want to drop a container here, then that's fine. I also think there's different levels of what people want to do with containers. There's what we're doing, which is technically building a real house.
Right.
And then there's what I would say 50% of the internet is doing, which is taking a container and dropping it into their backyard and calling it an Airbnb, right? Which is also happening. So there's a blend of everything from in between. So depending on what you're trying to achieve is the homework that you need to put in.
Yeah.
Knowing that the more complex you get with containers, while they are durable and strong, there are definitely things with engineering that have to be definitely taken into consideration, especially for certificate of occupancy.
Sure. Yeah, wow.
So that would be the biggest things. But Chris and I got way ahead of our architects. We did a good amount of the work.
Also, that's because it's the industry we're in.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, we had a leg up already.
It's what I do. You know, I work with builders and people every day. I had access to draftspeople that wanted to make extra money, so I could hire a training architect to draw my pre-plans, so I could look everything.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then I have drafting softwares for all my renovations, so I was able to put my house in there and have 3D renders already. So I knew what I was going for before I sent it to anyone else.
Yeah.
So, as the second architect team said when they visited us, they're like, you're like 37% already. Whereas most people start at 0 when we start with them. You're starting at about 37%.
Right.
So
right.
we were phase 2 versus their phase 1.
Yeah, so we skipped phase 1 of their design, their whole whatever.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have a projected date that you want to be moved in? Or are you just kind of free?
I mean, I'm hoping we break ground next year, the top of the year. I mean,
we're thinking basement
and
January,
then
February this year.
I'm hoping it takes no more than a year to build the house.
Yeah.
I want it to be faster than that.
Yeah.
I mean, my original projection was like 3 months, but everyone laughs. So
it's okay to have a vision.
So we set a year to make everyone happy.
Hopeful.
I would obviously like to be done much sooner than a year.
Yeah.
So I would say, we live in the house full time by 2024. I mean, that's our projected exit the city date as well. So that's when we.
And you never know.
Can I say that on TV that we projected to leave by 2024? Does anyone else know that yet? Whoops. So yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping it's done next year. I mean, that's the plan.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So I mean, the idea would be right now we're coming up on last quarter plus 1 month of the year, right?
Yep. So we're supposed to get our plans back next week.
First set.
Yep.
Then we start to go through reviews, and I think just from there it's
I mean, hopefully first set, things like basement are determined. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
we have stuff we already locked on.
We can start that. You know what I'm saying? And well and septic, now that we passed our perk test, I can lock those in right now, and we just get on the list. So that could be 2 weeks from now. We could have a well dug on the property.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing that I think is really important too, that we're going to start to go through is getting our finances for this.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
So that is a whole other conversation.
We had done it before, and then when the mortgage rate went up, a business bought another business, and then they decided they didn't want to finance homes in the region we were going to be in anymore. And so we get to start all over. And then finding comps is going to be impossible.
Finding what?
Comparable sales comps to be able to borrow the money.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fun. But we have a couple good prospects.
But let me just backtrack to start. There aren't a lot of traditional banks that will do this at all.
I was going to ask you, but okay, yeah.
This is not a process. This is like we went through a lot of talking to a lot of different people.
Yes.
Before we finally got to somebody that entertained us, who liked us, who saw we had a legit plan, legit drawings, legit everything.
Yeah.
What was holding us up at the time was a contractor, because that's a whole other thing.
At the time, I want to build my own home.
How much of this do I keep hearing?
No, you're.
I mean, yeah. So at the time, we want to build our own home. So the lender that was entertaining, loaning us the money, needed a contractor to sign on to be our consultant to pull the permit, so we couldn't pull our own permits.
Right.
So we had to try to find a contractor, and we were very unsuccessful at that. So we are in the process of becoming Class A contractors in the state of Virginia so that we can borrow money in our own house.
Yeah. But I really think that this is important to talk about, because again, I mean, you look on, these TikToks and, Facebook, all social media, right? And you have these people that have these like 30-second reels that make it seem like, they woke up one day and just, moved into this box, or this wooden home on this like piece of land out of nowhere, and it just happens like that. So I really think this is good for educational reasons, for people to understand that there is a lot that go into it, because quite honestly things are set up where you have to still go through a lot of red tape to be free, so to speak. You know what I mean? So I mean, it just is what it is.
That's partly what we want to show on our YouTube channel is actually what it takes to build a container home. Like not only just through getting financed, permitted, everything up to that point, and then actually building the home. It's just not cutting a hole in the side, throwing in a window, and be like, boom, baby, we're moving in on Thursday. Like it's just not that easy. So
I think it's also, we're building it as more of a traditional home where I think we're already, so a lot of these houses you see don't even have double levels, right? And then, so once you start to get into stacking the boxes, that creates a whole other, you know, these engineering things that we're talking about where.
Only because we can.
Well, for us, yes. There's some complexities in our design that drives it to be uniquely and holistically different than a lot of the things you're seeing on the internet right now.
Sure.
And I think that in itself will be interesting, but it also shows that some of these places that are being done, which are just, like I said, a good large portion of them being these Airbnbs, which are smaller spaces, this is going to show a way to use a bit of larger space, something that's a little bit more of like a permanent resident forever home type style of build. I think what Chris and I are hoping to achieve out of this too, and I would love to hear your feedback on this, is that through this experience, taking everything that we have already, being interior designers and renovators, taking what we're about to do with becoming Class A contractors for ourselves, right? We already have 2 contracting teams we work with. It's not like we're not already really a Class A contractor to begin with, but we might as well get certified. And then, you know, getting into the space of building our own, we're really hoping that we can become a consultant down in that area, that this could be part of Blackridge Farms. And what we're doing is starting to consult in experimental building. And also, and I think I mentioned this to you, looking at affordable housing for the future, because it is such a desperate thing. It is a huge economic headline that is everywhere right now. It is, as our country is becoming more desperate in these things we've neglected for so long, right? Just basic infrastructure. As we're starting to rebuild that, we've got to think about what does housing look like in the future that's affordable and economical for everyone, that's sustainable. And I think maybe these are some of the questions we want to be answering on Blackridge Farms. Like, we want to be challenging ourselves with some of these things. Like, what does the future look like? How can we help to do some experimental things here to maybe help shape what the future looks like?
And not even just the future, like what's happening right now. I mean, people,
Exactly.
I mean, really, you know what I mean? I mean, we literally watch things shift in such a way to where we know, and that's why we can say, okay, we can project that it'll happen in the future because it's happening right now, right? And we know we'll only just continue to grow and accumulate over time. And I know someone was showing me down in Austin, Texas, they're doing some things where they renovated, basically redid the way trailer parks look down there because of the stigma that goes with trailer parks and the way people even think about themselves when they live in a trailer park, right? And so they created all these little cute little homes and made like a, you know, the pet parks and all this stuff. They made it a cute little community living where people could take pride. I mean, because this is not just about finances, but it's about quality of life, right? And and being able to breathe and feel good about yourself. And you know, it's just so many different components to this. So and I know out in California they're doing a lot of that too, where they're creating these small homes for people that are getting out of you know, prison and, you know, who are homeless. And so I think that's a part of it too, that you all can help with that. As you said, you know, educating people is also that part of the feeling better.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, we definitely want to be able to answer questions. And I think hopefully maybe what's going to be interesting about this whole thing too, is that, I don't know, we're going to bring a lot of our city to this thing.
Sure.
Yeah. That,
like, I feel like I'm definitely like a real city girl. I think our taste, our style, like we're out there in the country and we look really country. And then I think people are just going to be like it, even if they saw what we'd like to do with the inside of the cabin right now, if and when we get to that next step, but like that, it's just, I don't think it's what people are going to expect.
Well, they can live together, right? I mean, they can,
Absolutely.
that duality, right?
I think they're gonna blend together perfectly.
Yeah.
I have no doubts in my brain.
Well, that's the beauty of creation, right? You can make it what you want it to be.
That
There's
is
no
right.
rules.
I often tell Carla I'm having my Walt Disney moments when I'm standing in the field and I'm just looking at nothing, and I already see stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like I see everything that's already out there. Even plans we have 10 years from now, I already see it. So
that's one thing that I reiterate and teach people, is that you have to visualize. Like you literally have to, all the senses, right? You have to, what does it smell like, to live out here? What will it feel like? What do I see? What do I hear? And literally visualize it as though it was, and is. And so yeah, so I'm totally down with that. That's how I roll. So I love it. And I would love to just tell people how they can follow you all, or kind of get more information about you all, if they, wanted to see what you all are doing.
Yeah. So I think the best place to follow our story right now is on Instagram at Forever Contained. We are slowly and quietly putting up some long format videos on YouTube that are going to start to give some vlogging on the whole experience. I think as that starts to happen, I'm sort of doing them unlisted right now, but I guess I should restate this again. Well, you can subscribe and follow Blackridge Farms at Instagram at Forever Contained, and find us on YouTube right now. I think I have us at Blackridge Farms, or do I have us at Forever Contained? I'm gonna have to look.
I think it's both. I think that you type in Forever Contained, but as the name is Blackridge Farm, if I remember correctly.
I know, and the reason that we did that, it was like, I have to tell you, there's one other component to this that we're not entirely talking about, and that is you asked about the, like, what is the spiritual part about this? And the spiritual part is community outreach in some ways, because it's a very satisfying way to give back, but to provide something, and hopefully provide something to the community. Sorry. We want to put a pavilion on our property, and I think I might have mentioned this to you. I don't know if I had or not, but we are looking at whether we have a pretty good idea of what this pavilion is going to be like. It would be in some place where you could do small weddings. You could do, the idea would be it would build over the pond, but then that would extend into what we were talking about with between the store, the country store, and being able to do events that we invite people to that are us giving to the community. The point is that we have this place, and that is really kind of happening also central on Blackridge Farms, is just creating a place that's an experience, a place that you can go to, with the event, with being able to rent the event space, offering some short-term stay on the property as well. So we're looking at taking the idea of, and the cornerstone of the container home, and the principle of what we want to do, and extend it to some further services that the property will offer eventually in the future. So on that note, we started with a container home, and we realized that as a brand, we're so much bigger, and we're just trying to figure it out right now. And so
aren't we all?
Insight, I know. And if you have any insight or thoughts on that, and you're like, you know what, that's confusing, or you should do this, like, I'm all about it right now. I'm just trying to put a footprint on the ground and see what sticks, and we'll go from there.
That's life, right? We're all trying to figure this out, right? And life is ever evolving, it's ever shifting. So it's like, because you could do all of that. You could do all of that, because I think what I hear from you is that you're building community, and that's what that's all about. A place where people can come and, I don't know, feel seen, feel at peace, learn, get educated and just all kind of stuff. So, and just like maybe sing and dance, just
Yes.
yes.
Karaoke and some bands.
Well, we have
Must
Tony, so we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't think that sometimes we try to put this like full description of our lives, right? And try to like make it all make sense. And sometimes that's how it makes sense, is that it doesn't. It's just like, you know what I mean? It's just going. And we don't have to always name things. It's just, this is community, this is our community, Blackridge Farm, and you're welcomed, and people will come, right? People will, once that's there and people hear music from miles away, they're like, where is that music coming from? I mean, it's just a beautiful thing. So I really appreciate you all for taking time. I mean, we could literally talk about this.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, because I have so many questions. I'm just really intrigued by this, and I think it's beautiful.
Part 2 and stuff as we start to get down the line with stuff, and we start to get into more.
We can let you know when we're about to start breaking ground, and
I would love it.
So we definitely be happy to come back and talk more.
But again, I really appreciate you all, and I wish you all the best of this. I mean, I know it will come together. How and when is always a question in life, but we just keep going and we'll figure it out as we get there. That's kind of how that goes most times. So
absolutely.
Yeah. This is a learning process for everybody involved, I'm sure.
Well, perfect. Thank you again so much for your time as well.
I know. We'll keep in touch on the side. I have so many other questions for you too as you go. So
yeah, ask away always, and I definitely will stay connected. Like I told Carla, I said, don't be surprised if I say, hey, I'm coming out to the land. I want to see it.
We'll be happy to have all visitors we get. Anyone who wants to join us on this journey is more than welcome.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate it. Well, you all take care. I wish you all the best, and we will definitely stay in touch.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your weekend.
Bye.